Hey. Welcome in to Keep It 100. I'm your host, as always, Casey Huckle. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, I will explain to you what Keep It 100 is about. But first, for those of you who are back, have been listening to my show all along, I wanted to explain to you, after I say thank you, that I have created a new introduction here because I'm celebrating Keep It 100's release onto iTunes. Now, let me explain, for those who are new, what this show is all about. Quotes that mean a lot to me. These could be maxims, adages, idioms, truisms, pieces of advice, lyrics, verses, and the like. I created this podcast because I want to celebrate these lines for giving me more perspective on life. Maybe you're thinking, why am I calling this podcast Keep It 100? It comes down to math. For the next year, I'll drop 2 episodes per week, focusing on 1 quote per episode to celebrate, where I'll delve into its history, including whom it's attributed to, who popularized it if necessary, and the context surrounding the quote if it's available. And lastly, I'll explain what it means to me. You might be wondering about the math. So, 2 episodes a week for a year leaves 104 episodes. Well, just like you, I need 2 weeks of vacation. So for the next year, I'm keeping 100 for you. These lines could be from a speech, the Bible, a song, maybe even from me. So without further ado, let's get into it. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's always darkest before the dawn. I honestly don't feel like recording this episode because this week has been awfully dark. But I can maybe remind myself in a meta way that if I keep pushing through this and stick to my plan of recording 2 episodes of Keep It 100 a week, the dawn will show up. Sun always rises the next day, and that's what the quote, the proverb by Thomas Fuller is all about. For a while, I was searching for, what, or like a few days ago, I picked the quote, and I'll tell you, I have a bunch of quotes listed down for the show. And sometimes I feel like if there's one that's like really inspiring me, that pops in my head, sometimes out of nowhere, or something I hear while watching TV, or I heard someone say, or I read, then I put it in like immediately while it's still fresh in my mind. And that's an example here with It's Always Darkest Before the Dawn. And so I felt like compelled to record this episode because I realized as I recovered from a severe depression, a severe depressive episode that started last week and rolled. It was like a week long. It ended about like on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's Friday night right now while I'm recording this. I just felt like that my experience really exemplified this quote, and I believe it's definitely tied to what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and how, like humans, we're all wired to recover from anything. Even our minds somehow can even though sometimes I think our minds recover the slowest of all the organs, as long as they recover. And that's why maybe those dark times for people can be longer if they're, psychologically dark. And any depression tends to be very dark and lonely because it's invisible. But I think this is attached to, this is similar, comparable to how, like, our bodies too, our muscles they break down and then they naturally recover. And so, just to follow along with that metaphor and the significance of the proverb, the sun will always rise. And I painted a picture for this episode of like just darkness at the bottom of the page, and then at the top, like a sun peeking through, and that's obviously that's a visualization of it's always darkest before the dawn, and I feel like we do mirror that sun, and that's obviously why the explains the significance of the quote. Let me get into background of the quote. It is from Thomas Fuller, and it goes back to 1650, and from 1650, right, from his travel log of the Holy Land, a Pisgah site of Palestine and the confines thereof. And Pisgah is actually the top of that mountain where Moses went, ironically, to die and looked like he saw the light before darkness. But coincidence is there's a Pisgah National Forest in near Asheville, where I live in North Carolina. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, I just wanted to speak on how, when I first heard this, I heard it in a Dark Knight, actually. Harvey Dent says it. The night is always darkest before the dawn, and is what he says. And I just felt like it was like really, really closely tied to any recovery I have from like any severely strong, intense negative emotions, and how I'm trying to make sense of how, like, or explain how, night becomes day, and just how, with the visual expression or example of it is that the sun is just so much power that it can drive out the light. It can drive out the dark. The light can drive out the dark. And I believe there's a quote by Martin Luther King on that too. Only lightness can drive out darkness. Darkness can't drive out darkness. And maybe I'll drop that quote in a future episode of mine. But I also wanted to. I had first heard it. Another time I had heard it was I think I was going through like a breakdown, and when I was in college, and I was trying to write this paper, and it was like becoming way too stressful for me. And then my professor, I told him I was like needed either an extension, or I don't think I'd gone so far to like I needed to drop the course, but I needed like a break from it or an extension. And he told me that line, it's always darkest before the dawn. And at the time, this is 10 years ago, I was just 21. I didn't know. It's before I really had any issues mentally, and I didn't really know what was going on. But now, if I saw my professor in the street, and if I ever got a chance to catch up with him, it'd be like one of the first things I'd say to him if I got time, was like, I didn't know what he meant back then, but now I know, like, going through the experiences, the trials and tribulations of life, I understand that, like, that's just how we're built. It's a testament to our human spirit, is that we always recover, and it always seems like the more, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The more broken down you are, the more your body can actually, like, overcome. The more your body can overcome that breaking down of muscle or mind or heart or whatever. And that's just how we've been able to survive for so long now. Unfortunately, we all inevitably die, but we go through these ups and downs in life, and then what doesn't, any downs, and it doesn't really, and ups too, can't really kill us, as long as they're small enough, and we can cope and get through that. So it's always darkest before the dawn, one of my favorite quotes, and thought it was, I'd drop it in this episode episode 9 now, I believe this is, of Keep It 100. And I just felt like really compelled to share that with you. So appreciate y'all for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Hold up. Wait just a minute. Stop right there. Because, first of all, I wanted to thank you very much for listening to Keep It 100. Secondly, if you would be so kind as to rate my podcast on iTunes and or Apple Podcasts, because just like you and LL Cool J, I need love. And I could maybe, perhaps, just maybe, if I get enough listens, I suppose the advertisers may come knocking at my door and I could quit my day job and podcast for a living. And, by the way, this is Keep It 100. I'm Casey Huckle, and I swear I'm done advertising. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm playing. I'm done. All right, Keep It 100, y'all. Thank you so much. God bless.